What's up guys, it's Justin Stenstrom from Elite Man Magazine, and in this video I'm going to share with you the three types of men in this world. So I'm watching The Godfather the other day, the great American gangster movie. It's one of the greatest movies of all time anyways, but it's probably the #1 gangster movie of all time. In my opinion, it's either that or Goodfellas, give or take either one, they're both incredible. But I'm watching The Godfather and a couple of things really stuck out to me. There are a ton of takeaways in The Godfather movie, but a couple of things really stuck out in particular. And one of those big things that I noticed when watching this, and by the way, I've probably seen this movie 70, 80 times in my entire life. Literally, when I was 12, 13 years old, I used to put this on repeat and just watch it almost daily. It was crazy. But I'm watching this movie, and one of the big things that sticks out is there are three types of men in this world. And the three types of men that that movie portrays, and does it really, really well, are the three sons, the three Corleone sons. So you have Don Corleone, the father, and then you have Sonny Corleone, the oldest son, and then you have the middle son, who's Fredo, and then the youngest, who's Michael Corleone, who ends up being basically the main character of the movie. But the three sons really stick out because they have such contrasting attitudes and personalities, and the characteristics that they have throughout the movie really displays the ins and outs of how to actually be successful in this world as a man. Now, the oldest son, Sonny Corleone, is played by James Caan, and probably one of the greatest roles in cinematic history. I mean, the character of Sonny Corleone is such a cool character. He's a badass, he's tough, he's ruthless, he's fearless, he's just brash, and he's a killer, and he's crazy. All of those things into one. He's also, though, short-sighted. He doesn't think in the big picture. He does things, like I mentioned, rash, bold, brash, all those things. He does things on impulse and just reacts to a lot of situations. And this inevitably leads to his downfall when he is set up by the former friend of his, and he's going to go to beat this guy up because the guy was beating up his sister. He goes to that little stop there, and he's ambushed because everybody knew he was going to react that way, and he was so easily predictable. He's a great character, but he wasn't too wise. Now, Sonny Corleone actually reminds me of a lot of people I've known over the years, a lot of friends I've had over the years who I used to go out with, and they were actually very fun, and they were fearless, and they were tough, and they were cool to be around, and they were very entertaining and exciting. But oftentimes these guys would get into a lot of problems. You go out to the bar for a few drinks, they'd get into a few fights, they'd get kicked out of the bar, they'd, cause different things to go down because they were very reactive. They weren't in control of their emotions. They didn't think of the bigger picture oftentimes, and they would get lost in that, and it oftentimes would lead to them getting into a lot of trouble, or even, sort of getting me into trouble just by being around them. And I had to kind of separate from a lot of these people. Now again, although Sonny is a great character, you don't want to actually be a Sonny in real life. You don't want to be someone who's very impulsive, who's very reactive, who isn't in control of his emotions, who gets into a bar fight every other weekend, or gets into a road rage incident every other weekend. Those guys just don't play the long game. They don't last in life. They're all very short-sighted, and they think about what's happening right now, and they're very reactive to what's happening right now. They're not in control of themselves, and they're not in control of their environment because they're not thinking in the big picture of things. The second brother they talk about in the movie is Fredo Corleone, and Fredo, although he's the middle child, is basically like the runt of the litter. I mean, he's the black sheep of the family. No one gives him any respect. No one gives him any credibility. No one looks to him for answers or advice or any of that stuff. They sort of overlook him and overpass him and jump right to the third child, Michael. But Fredo gets overlooked because he doesn't stand up for himself. He's very weak-minded. He gets very jealous. He doesn't have a backbone. He never thinks about the big picture. He never comes up with good ideas to share with the family. He's just very weak-minded, and he's actually, this is the crazy thing though, he's actually very similar to a lot of people out there. Like, not you listening per se, not the Elite Man audience that listens to the podcast and watches these videos, but he's like a lot of sheep out there, a lot of people that just kind of go through life blindly and just follow the rest of the herd or follow the shepherd. He's not one to stick out. He's not one to come up with his own ideas. He's not one to plan and actually have good foresight and bring anything really to the family to, bring them more money and bring them more success. He just kind of is a tag-along. And so all the brothers don't have any respect for him, and the rest of the family don't have really much respect for him, and so he's overlooked. So although Fredo isn't like his brother Sonny, who's very brash and bold and in your face, he's actually just as bad as Sonny because he's very insecure, he's very weak-minded, he's very fragile. And throughout this entire movie, you could kind of see it building up. and he has a lot of jealousy built up, a lot of resentment built up inside of him. So he tries to backstab his family, backstab his younger brother Michael, and this actually inevitably leads to his downfall as well. So if you really think about it, you got Sonny on one hand, who's like some people you probably know, who are very aggressive, very bold and brash. They also don't think in the long term. He's not like him at all, but he's also just as bad because he's very weak-minded. He gets passed over, he gets overlooked, he builds up this weakness and this insecurity and resentment inside of him that inevitably leads him to make mistakes and do stupid things that if he was a confident person and he stood up for himself, he would have never had to make these decisions anyways. But in the long run, they kind of built up over time and created a lot of resentment in him, which again leads to his downfall. And like I mentioned a moment ago, unfortunately, most people are actually like this Fredo character. Most people are actually sheep who just never let their desires be expressed. They hold in all those emotions and ball them up over time, and they get very jealous and resentful, and this leads them over time to do stupid things and to take stupid actions and to make stupid risks, and all those things inevitably backfire on them. These Fredo-like characters hardly, if ever, have success in life. Now, the third brother that's talked about in the movie is Michael Corleone, the youngest brother of them all. And he is basically a combination of Sonny and Fredo, but a combination of their strengths without their weaknesses. So he has the calculating ruthlessness of Sonny, and he also has the patience and sort of quietness of Fredo without their weaknesses. So he's not too aggressive, he's not very reactive, he's not too brash and overly, say, combative like Sonny is, and he's not timid at all. He's not weak-minded like Fredo is. He's not going to be taken advantage of like Fredo is taken advantage of. He actually has a strong backbone. He actually will speak up for himself, and he actually does think in the long term and doesn't take things personal. So in the short term, he can actually overcome these things and actually still think of the bigger picture. So Michael puts it all together really well. He's quiet, he's calculating, like I said, he thinks of the bigger picture, and he has the ruthlessness to take out all his enemies without them actually knowing that he's trying to take them out. Like Sonny would tip them off that he's trying to kill them, but Michael would just smile to their face and make a deal with them, shake their hands, and then they'd be dead like 24 hours later. That's how cool and calculated Michael is, and that's why he ultimately is the most successful brother. Now, obviously, I'm not condoning being a gangster in this video. I'm not telling you to go out and kill people and have violence and all kinds of crazy gangster shit like that. But what I am saying is to actually learn from these three brothers. Now, Sonny was obviously too brash, too aggressive, too short-tempered, and wasn't in control of his emotions. Fredo, as well, was too weak-minded. He was too timid. He was too soft. He was too vulnerable. And again, not in control of his emotions. Michael, however, was in control of his emotions. He was smart. He was calculated. He was ruthless when he had to be ruthless. He also didn't take things personal. So he could make deals and make different things happen on the surface, and actually make, one of his quotes, by the way, is keep your friends close and your enemies closer. That's what he learned from his father, from watching his father over the years. He picked that up because that was one of his things that his father did well, was make deals with people. If you couldn't kill everybody, you had to make some friends. You had to make deals with people. Even if someone was your enemy, you had to bring that person in and make a deal with them. And Michael didn't take things personal, so he could make those deals if he had to. Sonny would never be able to make those deals. Fredo wouldn't have the respect to garner those deals to happen in the first place, but Michael was perfect. He was the balance of everything, and that's what you want to be in life. You want to have that calculated ability. You want to be ruthless when you have to be ruthless, especially in business. If you have to be, you got to be ruthless in business if you have to be in certain times. You want to have that in you to be that way, but you also want to have the ability to make deals and to make friendships and to create different networks of people. You got to have that balance of both if you want to be successful across all areas of life. But that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like below and also share in the comment section what you took away from The Godfather, or in particular from Michael Corleone. Which lesson did you learn from him from watching that movie? And if you haven't seen that movie, you're absolutely crazy. You got to watch it at some point in your life. Hopefully you watch it right after this video because it is that good. Also, as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Hit the notification bell to get notified the instant we release a new video. And follow me on Instagram at Justin Stenstrom.